Hey team, in today's video, I wanted to answer the question, is the PECO air conditioner thermostat the worst thermostat that you can install? And the quick answer is it really depends on who installs the thermostat. The biggest issue that I've seen with these particular thermostats is that it is set up incorrectly. A lot of people think that you can just, hey, you know what, take the wires off, wire for wire, install it, set the temperature, and walk away. There's a little bit more to that, and that's what we're going to discuss in this video. And specifically, it's going to be the advanced settings. With these thermostats, for me personally, what I've seen is this particular thermostat I've had the most service calls on. And the reason being, whoever's installing them isn't setting them up right. We don't stock this on our truck, but we definitely set them up correctly and or replace them. Now, we're going to go into the advanced settings on this one. Hopefully this will be a quick video. And the way that you get into the advanced settings, you're actually going to press and hold these two bottom buttons right here for a few seconds, and it's going to switch over. Okay. Now you have this top number, which is the 100. This area right here is the service menu. The number that's flashing right down below is the current option. So we're going to use those two areas right there to determine which section we're going to be on the service menu. Okay. Now, within the advanced settings, one of the things that we're going to have to make sure and make a decision on is how is this going to be set up as far as the schedule format. So you have a few settings here. You have 0, 1. That particular setting is going to be to make the thermostat programmable, right? So you'll be able to go in, set your schedule, when you're going to turn it on and off, and temperatures and such. Now, you can also set this to 00, which is going to be a non-programmable. That's going to allow somebody just to pretty much go up to the thermostat and turn it on and off, heat, cool, and whatever the temperature is. You also have setting 02, which is going to be a 5-1-1 schedule. So you have 5 days out of the week that you can schedule it. 1 day for Saturday and then 1 day for Sunday. And each of those are going to be different schedules. Next one is going to be 03, and that's going to be a 5-2 schedule. So you'll have 5 days scheduled, and then you'll have the weekend scheduled. Two separate if you so choose. Typically, the way that we set it is actually going to be for programmable. Now, this is specifically for the restaurant industry or a commercial industry. If you have an office building. All right, sorry about that. A little noise in the background there. But let's get back to it. So 01, that's the setting that I will personally choose to set up, let's say, a restaurant. And what you'll be able to do is typically restaurant hours or even office hours, they're going to be roughly the same. Sometimes offices are closed on the weekend. So then at that point, you would use that 03 or the 5-day, 2-day schedule. Okay. So moving on to the next one. This is 101, daylight saving time. We don't really need to pay too much attention to that. Typically, you can either set it to either 00, which is disabled, or you can set it to 1, so it automatically sets itself over. But the more important setting that we actually need to look at is setting 110. This is the system type. Now, in this particular situation, what ends up happening is you need to know what type of system you have on the roof, what you're going to be hooking up to. Is it a heat pump? Is it a conventional cooling system? Is it two-stage, single stage. These are all things that if you had a service company come out, they would be able to determine right away, jump up on the roof, make their assessment, come back down and set it up. If you don't know, I'd highly recommend trying to figure that out before setting this up on your own. Now, for this particular situation, we had this set for 07, which is 2 heat and 2 cool multi-stage conventional, which is typically what you're going to have, let's say, in California. But in different areas, you might have a heat pump. So you'll definitely want to make sure that you have that all squared away. If you don't know what a heat pump is, then we'll have to talk about that in another video. Give me 1 second here. We're going to move on to the next setting. And another one that I've noticed that typically ends up having or being set up incorrectly is section 170. And what this has to do is with the remote sensor. This particular setting is very important because if you have a remote sensor that is, let's say, out in the dining area and your thermostat is in the office, you want to make sure that it's going to be reading that remote sensor. Because if it's not, you're either going to have a situation where it's either too warm or it's too cold. Now, the way to configure that, this one right here didn't have a remote sensor on it, so it was set to 00, which means no remote sensors. If you need to set it up to a remote sensor, you're going to go up to 01. And what that's going to do is allow you to read that remote sensor, which is in that conditioned space. The next very important setting here is going to be setting 240. This is the number of program periods. This is probably one of the biggest issues right here that we typically have is somebody doesn't go into the advanced settings to change this. This particular one right here. Now, default, okay, is 4 events per day, which is occupied 1, unoccupied 1, occupied 2, and unoccupied 2. In my particular field, we do not use the 4 events per day. We actually use the 2 events per day. It's pretty much, hey, what time is the business open? Or what time do people get into the office? And what time does the business close? Or what time do people leave the office? Now, if you have this set to 04, you're going to find yourself in a situation that the unit's going to turn on at certain times, then it'll turn off and it'll be off for a few hours, and it'll be on, off, on. Very uncomfortable. For whatever reason, I do not understand, but it's always set to 4 every single time I get a service call on these thermostats. So I don't know if it's you maintenance guys that aren't setting this up right, the rookies. Well, typically the maintenance guys are the rookies, or just maybe a facilities person going in and setting these up and not knowing that there's that the advanced settings that you need to go into. But no worries. Hopefully you guys can figure it out with this video. And then let's see, and pretty much the last feature that you're going to want to determine is going to be your keypad lockout, which is going to be menu 340. Personally, I like to leave it on 00. The reason being is once it's dialed in, nobody else should be really touching it. You can also say that too if you want to make sure that everything is locked out. If it's dialed in, nobody should be touching it. Lock it out just to prevent people from touching it. I don't know what pulls people to the thermostat, but certain situations, it's a kind of a big issue. And then in other, locations, nobody touches it. They've been told, hey, keep your hands off. So for this particular setting, it's going to be 00, which is no pad lockout, which is the default, or you can go to 03. And what that's going to do is that will lock out all of the keys. So once it's dialed in, nobody can go in and touch it unless you actually know how to get into the advanced settings. Other than that, everything else, you should probably keep it at the default settings. You really don't need to change any of that stuff. That's what I've found. The default seems to be working out all right. Every now and then you do need to kind of go in and maybe change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. That's pretty much on preference. Other than that, these particular settings are the most important, and they will cause you to have either a callback or a service call after somebody has come in and installed these. Hopefully, this kind of gets you guys to where you're going. If you guys set these settings up correctly and there's still issues, then there might be something set up, might be something going on up on the roof. Maybe the wiring set up incorrectly, but that's for another video. If there's any questions or anything, anybody else needs some more detail on a specific setting, I can do either a separate video or maybe answer the question in a comment. Anyways, hopefully this helped you guys out. If it did, definitely give a like, and all subscriptions are greatly appreciated. Thank you all.